Coming in live in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, what's up, y'all? You are listening to your Mental Matters podcast. I'm your girl, Mo. And for those of you watching, thank you for tuning in. We're back with another episode and a very special guest. We have Jean here with us. Pronunciation
like that,
on that.
Pronunciation is nice.
And yeah, I want to have you introduce yourself to the people.
Cool.
Yeah, just like who you are, what you do, in like a few seconds. But I want to start off with thanking you for coming, for being here.
Sure. Likewise.
Yeah,
Happy to be here.
And yeah, I'm excited about this conversation. I think
too.
it's, we've been trying to scheduling wise, we've been
Yeah.
trying to set this up for a little bit.
Yeah.
And the weather is kind of crazy. Well, it's been
Right.
kind of up and down. So
Making it happen though.
we made it happen.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that we're here. So yeah, introduce yourself to the people. Who are you? What do you do? Where are you from? Things like that.
Sure. So I'm Jean the Human, pronunciation.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm a therapist, creative. I feel like that word is often kind of vague.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a photographer, creative director, fashion designer, maybe some more things in the future. We'll see. Former high school teacher, father. That's a part that we'll get to.
We'll get into.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a lot of my work is driven by my passion for mental health, my community, an appreciation for aesthetics. So just kind of combining all those interests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And that's a lot.
That's
I feel like
yeah.
you wear a lot of hats. And we'll get into that too, right? That was something else that I thought would be interesting to get into as a creative, as somebody who is also a dad. You're a whole parent, right?
That's crazy.
You're raising a whole human.
Right.
How do you juggle it all, right? And of course, as a therapist too, how do you juggle everything, right? How do you account for your mental health while at the same time helping other people do the same? So yeah, let's get into it, right?
Yeah.
Well, first, before we get into the topic, right? The subject matter, I first want to start off with a check-in, right? I do this every episode. We do a check-in, just to kind of see how's your mental health, how's it been? How is it today? It could either be a check-in, how are you feeling today, right now? How have you been the past couple of weeks? It's the new year, right? We're first week into the new year. How have you been feeling?
I appreciate you asking that too. It kind of forces me to check in with myself.
Yeah, and just I think also be present, because I think a lot of times, just as humans, right? Naturally, we're just going, right? We're in New York, or just in certain urban areas. You just going, doing what you got to do, but just taking a moment to check in with yourself, I think is super important. And so that's why I like to incorporate it in the episodes, because even too, sometimes it could be nerve-wracking, right? Where, we on camera, right? And that's something too that can take away from just being present. How, how are you feeling? So I could either start. I could start, or because I know I put you on the spot, but I could start or you could start.
It's cool. I have no problem starting.
Yeah.
Checking in, I feel good. I feel like I've had, today was a very healthy day for me. I was able to work out. I had a really good latte before I got here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had lion's mane in it.
What? From where?
It was from Whole Foods.
Ooh,
it was from
fire.
Whole Foods. It had a combination of things, and had my immune shots.
Okay, cool.
Alkaline water and all that. So I'm feeling good. I'm
very healthy.
That's more physical than mental, but I think that has held my energy a lot today.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was able to have just quality time with my son this morning. So,
love that.
Or most of the day, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
He's on his mom took him on a play date with some other kids.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and she just updated me telling me that he's trying to walk and everything. So it's cool to, mentally, it's a good space to be in.
I love that. And how old is, I want to get into all of it. We're going to get into it in a second. Before I start asking all the questions about just fatherhood and parenting and everything. Sure. But I think that's beautiful. I love that check-in, and I love that it's it's positive, right? You're in a good space right now, which I think sounds good. And I'm definitely going to go to Whole Foods and see about their, because I did not know that Whole Foods even has like do they have an area where they like make like a cafe area in Whole Foods?
Nah, not the one. The one I went to doesn't. I don't know if other ones do.
Yeah.
But this was like a latte mix. So
okay.
Yeah, so it was like a powder with a whole lot of stuff in it.
Got you. Okay.
You make it on your own, but
got it.
Yeah, definitely. It put me in a good mood.
Cool. I love that. And Lion's Mane is fire.
Mm-hmm.
I've had Lion's Mane before, like a previous sponsor that I was with.
Yeah.
They had this it was a natural energy shot, right? And there was Lion's Mane in it, and it was really good. But
it's supposed to like stimulate your thinking, like your brain power and everything.
It helps with like focus, right?
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Cool. All right, cool. So, and I'll do my check-in, I guess.
I was about to say, you got to.
Yeah, I'm like, let me not rush off.
Yeah.
So for my check-in, I think I'm feeling. It's weird because when I was on my way here, I was driving here, and I was like, I felt slightly off, right? But I'm like, I couldn't put my finger on like what it was that I was feeling.
Right.
Like it almost feels like, I don't know if it's low energy or like low mood, but then it's like now we're recording and I feel different. Like I'm like, okay, cool. Like I got my energy back, right? Because I'm doing something that like I love, that I'm passionate about. But
that's real.
I don't know if like there's been like a lot of different things on my mind lately. I think like coming into the new year, I felt very just like positive, like hopeful, optimistic, things like that, right? Like most people I think want to start the new year off like that.
Right.
But then it's also good to be realistic. Like how are you really feeling? Like we know what we want to feel, but how are we feeling right now? Right. So I think coming into the new year, it was like, cool, I'm hopeful. But I also had a lot of different things on my mind that that were like, maybe just a lot of things that I'm unsure about, right?
Yeah,
just as far as like things that are going on currently, right? So I think that has played a part in me just feeling slightly off sometimes where I'm like, positive things are happening. But then there's also a lot of things that like I just don't have the answer to and also are out of my control. So
if you don't mind, not to interrupt you.
Yeah.
But if you don't mind me asking, are those things that you feel that are out of your control, are they more so to your personal life or are you just like generally speaking?
Yeah, I think they're more so like centered towards my personal life. Like,
gotcha.
Yeah, some of those, and I'll get into some of that too, like as we keep going along.
Sure.
But I think, like those things, of course, like I feel like the personal things, I guess, are more like soft spots, right? Like they hit like when it comes to like career, professional things, I feel like I can very much so like use my like rationale and be like, boom, we gonna figure it out, boom, boom, boom. We good, right? But then when it comes to like personal things, I feel like sometimes it could be harder.
Right.
Because I don't always have the answers, even though like it may look like that, like I do, because I feel like I handle things, with style and grace, because that's, I really, at least I try my best to. So I think, but I could still be like, a lot of times I find myself still maybe like having just internal thoughts and trying to figure out like, okay, how do I like just push these thoughts to the side?
Yeah.
And like, and I mean, that's what I do a lot of times. I'll push the thoughts to the side and just
compartmentalize.
Do other things. But then on a drive, they'll be like in my mind. And so that's what I think was happening as I was on my way here. But now I feel like, I mean, as I'm talking about it now, I feel like slightly anxious as I'm like talking about it. But I think if I'm not thinking about certain things, I'm good. So I think that's where I've been, slightly anxious, unsure about some things, but overall doing okay.
Yeah. I appreciate the transparency in that too.
Yeah.
Like one of the words or phrases you mentioned was the right now, right? Like, and I think that's valuable. Like when we think about, I think a lot of conversations around mental health emphasize the positives or the importance of thinking positively. And sometimes that can be, I don't want to say dangerous, but misleading. Yeah. Because there are real thoughts and feelings that you have to face. And it's okay to like right now sit in those feelings or choose to not sit in those feelings and like you said, compartmentalize and kind of push it to the back. Yeah. But even managing it with style and grace is powerful, but I don't think it should be a requirement not that it is for you or anyone else, or
Yeah.
not that that's what you're suggesting, but I just appreciate transparency. So I think there's a lot of power in that too.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think I try my best to be as transparent as possible because I think I also want that in return. Like, and whoever I'm communicating with, I want them to feel like, you know, like it's safe here. Like you could share, you know? So I think I also try to do that. And also sometimes I realize too, I don't talk about how I'm feeling as much, even though like if the opportunity presented itself, I would. I don't do it as often because
on here or just in general? Just
in general, I think. Because I think a lot of times I'm in that role where I'm like, I'm that person for like whether it's friends, family, whoever. Like I feel like I'm usually that person.
The therapist.
Yes, right? The go-to person. So I'm not always, you know, even though I'm pretty like, I'm pretty transparent. Like if we're having an intimate conversation, I'll be open. I don't always maybe, and it could be too, maybe I'm just not volunteering, you know, like sometimes I just take that back seat and allow, you know, so I think, you know, it's good. Like sometimes when, like those moments when I am able to, I'm just like, oh wow, like I really needed to like just share that, just open up about that, just talk about it real quick. So
yeah, there's power in that. I think that's something I'm learning as well. Like as therapists, we create, our job is to create space for other people. Yeah. But like how often do we create space for ourselves? So I think having that balance can even help us in the work that we do. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, cool. So that was great. Thank you for that.
Likewise.
Check in. Of course. So yeah. So I was going to have an icebreaker for us, but I feel like the ice already broken.
Is it a fun one?
It was fun. You know what? It's fun. Maybe. Wolf.
No pressure. I'm
trying to think. Should we do it? Wolf, what you think?
The icebreaker?
So I actually left it in my, can you grab it for me? It's right in my, there's like a black bag there. You can just open it up and it's the blue. No, it's right where the plaid jacket is right there. Yep. It should be like underneath it.
It's like an object that we use?
No, it's a card game. So
okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yep. The blue. Yep. That's the one. Thank you so much. Thank you. And shout out to our amazing engineer, Wolf. I know I'll be talking about Wolf all the time on here. Or I'll be having Wolf hop on real quick and share some words of wisdom.
That's love.
But yeah, I appreciate it, Wolf. So yeah, let's do the icebreaker then. It's fun. I think it's pretty fun. It's you know, it could get deep really quick though.
Got you.
Because it acts as like pretty like thought-provoking questions and stuff. So yeah, let's play. We can like pick a couple of cards and then we can get into like, you know, the subject matter, what we're going to talk about. So yeah, you can start first. Right? Just pick a card, any card.
Hot stakes right here.
Yes. So basically you pick the card, you read it aloud, and then you can give an answer. If you don't like the question, you can pick another card. Okay. So.
This question says, how would you describe true love?
Ooh.
That's deep.
That is deep.
Yeah, that's deep.
How you feeling about that question? You want to answer or?
Yeah. I have no problem. I got to think about it for a minute though. Yeah. That's pretty deep.
It is. Take your time.
I don't know if I could sum it up to one description or definition. I think love can take different forms depending on the context and the relationship. I'll say, generally speaking to different contexts, true love in the form, how I would describe true love in the form of parenthood is doing everything necessary, doing everything within your power to ensure that your child is fulfilled in their life as much as possible. Yeah. And that they are fulfilled within themselves, that they have all the tools that they need, all the resources that they need to be happy with who they are, to be, you know, satisfied with whatever direction that they're going in. Yeah. To make sure that they're making more healthy choices than unhealthy choices. Yeah. I was going to say to make sure that they live a healthy lifestyle, but we're humans. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to, you know, kind of veer off whatever path that we hope to stay on. Yeah. But as long as, again, you're doing everything within your power to ensure that they can make more of those healthy choices. In the context of romance, I would say similarly, being committed to ensuring that your partner is as fulfilled and is as actualized in themselves as possible.
Ooh, break that down for us. What that mean? That sound real.
Actualized or?
Yeah, the actualized part. Like even just that, making, like what you said, making sure that your partner is actualized in whatever they want to be, you're saying? Or?
In just the full essence and potential of who they are.
Got it.
So making sure that, because even in just the terminology of being a partner, right? Like you're essentially there to support this other person on some level or on many levels. And so doing the most you can to ensure that they're expressing themselves at the highest level, at their highest level, that they're, reaching whatever peaks that they want to reach or that they're meant to reach. Not that you're responsible for getting them there, but that in whatever role or capacity you find yourself in with this person, that you are doing your best to contribute as much as you can.
Love that.
To see them reach that point.
Love that.
And I guess if we take it back to this question, a general definition or description of love from my perspective would be to do that for the people that you claim to love. So whether it's friends, family, children, partner, even if you have to do it from a distance, because I know with family that can get complicated, but making sure that, okay, I did my best to help this person be their healthiest, most expressed, most actualized and accomplished self. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's on point. Right?
Appreciate
to me, like what I got from what you shared too is like it's action, right? Like in that, right, there's action that's required.
Love is a verb.
Period. I agree. Okay. So I'll pick one.
I like what card game is this?
Oh, so this is the And. Shout out to the And.
The And, okay.
We try and get sponsorship. Shout out to the And. Yeah, I bring these in from time to time, often actually, and I use them as like icebreakers because I think it's fun. It gets deep and warms us up, right?
I like it.
Yes, and so if
it's not surface level, not to cut you off.
It's not. No. You're good. Yeah, like if it's I would recommend anybody if you wanted to kind of just kind of have an activity, whether it's with friends, family. This is actually the family edition.
Okay.
I brought it in specificcally.
So it's the safe one.
Yes, this is the safer one because they have, couples edition. They have the self edition. They have, like it gets, I got the levels, but this one I brought in family edition because of what we're going to be talking about today around like parenthood and fatherhood and stuff. But yeah, this one is pretty, I would recommend it, like to get it for anybody who wants to just have an activity that's like, to kind of even build up relationships or, on any level, right? Whether it's family, friends, partner, whatever. So the And, come on, sponsorship.
Right, cut the check.
Right. And so, this question, when was the last time you cried and why? I feel like I always get this question.
I feel like
did you see?
I saw you. Was it you or
it probably was me.
I don't know if it was who you were talking to, but somebody got this question.
Did they get that's show, what I'm like, do I want to do this? Because I'm like, I don't even. No, I don't want to do this one because I'm like, it's probably the same answer. I don't know if there's a different answer. I'm trying to think if I've cried recently. No, it's the same answer.
Gotcha.
I haven't cried since that last episode.
Yeah.
So
okay. That's a good thing though, I guess.
Right.
Right.
Unless it was like tears of joy, then.
Right. Of course.
Okay, I like this one. It says, if you could change one thing about the way you were raised, what would it be and why?
That's deep, yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Take it back to childhood.
It is. We're going there with it. And I want you to answer too.
Okay.
Just, since this is like, it's in vein with like what we're talking about. Like,
got you.
Yeah. So for me, I think if I could change one thing about the way that I was raised, I guess if I had to pick something, even though like I like to live life like, things panned out the way that they did because that was what was best for me. I think if I could have had a choice to have both parents present, because I was raised by a single mom. So I think of course, as we know, right, as therapists, right,
Yeah.
like family dynamics and structures and stuff, like two parents, idealistically, right, would be like the healthy, traditional, like, a child needs both parents, right?
Nuclear home.
Right.
Yeah.
But for me, I feel like, on the brighter note, right? My father being absent, like not present, I don't know if it actually, like in the physical sense, affected anything. Like my mom was like super mom. I feel like, to this day, I think she thinks I'm spoiled. I kind of think I'm spoiled too. Like it'd be hard for me to admit that because I'm like, how? Like just because I want the finer things in life. But I think she was
different kinds of spoiling.
Yeah. Yeah. So like she made sure I had everything. I was in activities. Like I was happy. Like I wasn't. So that's where it's like, I don't like look at my childhood with like any like and feel angry or anything. Like I think I'm just grateful that like she was able to, do with what she had and what she could.
Right.
Still allow me to have like an amazing, childhood. Right. Me and my brother, because I have an older brother, but.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think, if I had a choice though, like I think it would be interesting, right, to just see like how would things have been, if my father was in the picture, if I had both parents present, like, because just because you have two parents doesn't necessarily mean that you're better off. Like I'm and that's where I'm able to kind of like see that silver lining in it.
Right.
But yeah, I guess that's something that like there have been moments in my life where I kind of wrestled with that, like. Well, how come or why couldn't, right? Especially if you maybe see your friends have both parents or whatever. So, yeah.
I feel that. Damn, that's deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it has me thinking about...
Yeah, what about you?
What I would change. I think the surface level, what I would change.
Yeah.
It would be cool to be born to like a billionaire family. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be cool. But it's not something I dwell on.
Right.
But what I really would change, and I think what has or is also informing my parenting style is actually what you just said, right?
Yeah.
You can have two parents, but sometimes that dynamic can be unhealthy, or a relationship with one of the parents, or even both of them, can be unhealthy or damaging. And so. How I grew up, I grew up primarily with my mother. Yeah. Like my parents separated when I was really young. But my father was still in my life. He was still very present. He still contributed. Yeah. But he wasn't really emotionally available. And as an adult, as a child, I was aware of it, and it affected me. It affected how I navigated, how I viewed myself, how I, just perceived like the world in general. But I think as a father now, it makes me more conscious of that. Yeah, and conscious of the way I show up. Got it. So I'm like way more affectionate with my son, like. I'm always hugging this kid, I love like that. Holding him, kissing him. Like it's, because I didn't get that. And I would never want him to feel void of that, because even when you get it from your mother, it's valuable. Yeah. It's not that one is better than the other. Right. But as you said, it's, if you can have a healthy dynamic with both parents or be nurtured by both parents, that can, again, I haven't experienced it myself, but I imagine that can have like great effects on who you become, your level of confidence, self-esteem, actualization, like we talked about earlier. And so, just now in my position, it's like, I'm going to always provide that for my child, or, if I have more children in the future, that's always going to be a priority for me.
I love that. It's fire. Because I think like, when we talk about generationally, right? Like how sometimes it's like, you don't even realize that maybe there's, as a result of, something that was kind of like out of your control, right? Like as a child, you can't control if your parent is, not emotionally, present, right? Or aware or intelligent, whatever term you want to put there, right? You're just navigating as a child, right? But then people get older, right? And can, a lot of times kind of get stuck, right? And then continue the cycle. So I love that you had the awareness, have the awareness, and you are making an intentional decision not to, just continue the cycle, even though there may be even parts of you that could operate that way too from at times.
And I appreciate that. And to your point, I think that it's funny, right? So parenting exposes you to a lot of the unconscious dynamics that operate within you. And
yeah, put me on, because I'm not a parent. So I'm really like, what? Tell me, what?
Yeah, it can expose you to it exposes you to yourself. I'll say that. It shows you a lot about yourself that you were conscious of and unconscious of.
Wow.
And something that I've heard before I became a parent was that some of the bad or the negative traits that you may see in your parents that you want to avoid consciously can still show up in your parenting style.
Yeah.
Even in relationships, right? It's like there are folks who can grow up in either like physically abusive or emotionally, mentally abusive households and despise a parent for perpetuating that abuse.
Yeah.
And then still within their relationships have traces of those behaviors or those patterns. Because, on some level, there's just a subconscious influence at play.
Yeah.
And so I think in parenting, that can happen as well. And so I would say that I'm doing a good job. I mean, my son can't talk yet, but I feel like he would say the same thing his mom does.
Yeah.
I say that humbly, but I'm also...
No, talking shit. Yeah.
But I do think that the consciousness is there, but it's like... there's no guarantee of perfection.
Yeah.
Right. So I anticipate having days where, I not intentionally, but I may not be as emotionally available. I hope not.
Yeah.
But I just think that I'm just not cutting it out of the picture because I have the consciousness. It's not impossible
for sure
for me to perpetuate some of those behaviors that I don't want to.
Right. Understood. That makes sense. No, thank you for sharing that. I love that breakdown. Yeah. I think that's what I'm like, anybody who's a parent, I'm like, kudos. Like my mom, like sometimes I think about my mom.
Yeah.
I can't think about, I don't know, when I think about certain things for too long, I get emotional. So we're not even gonna do that. But sometimes when I think about my mom, I'm like, you raised two humans alone, And then I also think just what you shared, right? Like even the mental labor that goes into let me make sure that I am showing up as best as I can.
Right.
And you're human, right? So of course, I think that's expected, right? To not be perfect, right? And I think and I know at least from what I hear, parenting is a thankless job, right? Like you can do the most mentally, emotionally, physically, and your child doesn't know any different. They're just you're there, right? It's you being there to them is just everything, right? But there's a lot that goes into it on a personal level. So I'm just anybody who's a parent at my age right now, I'd be like, oof, y'all got it. Y'all got it. Because, right, I just me as an individual, I feel like I'm trying to manage myself. I'm trying to manage myself. Yep. So another human. So for me, I'm talk your shit. Hats off to you and all of that. Even just for just showing up, know? So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think that was good. I mean, I think we kind of already started getting into our first kind of topic. So I'm let's stay there, right? Which is
cool. I'm gonna get this game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please do. I send you the link and everything. I'll put it in the description bio too. So the audience can also tap in if they want.
Cool.
But yeah, I think we got into, right? We started talking about parenthood, fatherhood so far. I feel like you answered some of the questions, right? How's it been for you so far? And yeah, I guess let's start from the beginning, right? When did you become a father?
I became a father this summer.
This summer?
Yeah, this past summer, 2023.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I got a little one.
How old?
He's going to be 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's fresh.
Yeah.
So are you sleeping? Like,
I am.
okay, cool.
I am, thankfully. You know, my lady, his mom is she's great. Like, she's a great mom.
Shout out to her.
Super mom. Yeah. Shout out to her for real. Super mom, which I always knew she could. I always knew she had the capacity for that, but to see it is different.
Yeah.
So I'm very appreciative of that. But we definitely sleep. We kind of to the topic of sleep, we kind of balance it out.
Yeah.
You know, depending on the day and what's happening with him. So, like, for example, like last night, you know, I got up to like feed him during the night, change his diapers and everything. So, but it's not like an exclusive, you have to do this or you have to do this. It's kind of like we kind of play it by ear, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But she does, just transparently, she does a lot of the caretaking just from like a mother's end. She's just way more, she's intuitive with him. Yeah, just being a mom is like, it's hard to describe. Like, we're both parents, right? And we're both present, but it's like, I'm a dad and I'll do my thing, but I can't do what your mother does.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't, she's a different type of nurturer.
Yeah.
It's just natural. Like, it's instinctive.
Oh, that's great.
It's different. It's different. Like, I can, you know, there are things that are instinctive for me as a father too.
Yeah, of course.
Which,
of course.
Yeah, it's just different types of roles. But I think us doing it together and just balancing it out, I think it has, you know, good, I hope that it has great results for our son.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds like it. It sounds like you guys too have like I mean, because I guess, you know, from what I hear from parents, like I have some friends who are parents and stuff, like just that rhythm, right? Like you guys have like a balance or a schedule or rhythm. Do you guys do that? Like where it's like, okay, at this time, like this, it's your turn. We going to, do you guys discuss things like that? Or is it just like, one of y'all just get it? Like if the baby starts crying, somebody gets up. Or is it like, it's your turn? Do you guys do that? Or is it just like how is it?
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
So, but again, it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Because we kind of play it by ear sometimes.
Yeah.
But then there's also certain responsibilities that just come with our different bandwidths and other responsibilities.
Yeah.
So, for example, she's with him during the day. Okay. Right? When I'm at work, you know, obviously I'm away, so she has the majority of like the caretaking. But then when I'm home, it's like, okay, I'm going to give him a bath every day, or I'm going to, you know, clean all his bottles, feed him, put him to sleep, you know, change him, whatever I can fill in for the time that I'm there. Yep. But then that's flexible as well, because some days I may come home later than others. Yeah. And so I might text her like, hey, I'm going to be home later. Can you, you know, cover this responsibility? So this communication. This flexibility. I mean, we're still working on it, to be honest. It's still very new to us. Yes. So we haven't mastered it completely. But we try to operate in a way that really just makes sense for the both of us and for him ultimately.
Of course. Yeah. Fire. Love that.
Yeah, it's a learning journey.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm over here, I'm about to get all in your business. If you're okay. So like how, as far as the relationship dynamic, right? Like, cause I mean, that's really the beginning, right? Before your son was here, like how, I mean, and you could answer to the level of which you're comfortable. Like how long have you guys been together? Like how is the relationship dynamic before your son was here? And has it changed at all? Like, do you feel like it's different since your son got here?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's changed. It's changed a lot because parenting is a full-time job. Yeah. And thankfully, we're aligned on a lot of our values. Yeah. Especially as it pertains to him. So we don't really have conflicts when it comes to how to raise him or what's necessary for him. You know, we're pretty congruent on that.
Okay, cool.
But it does change because parenting does take a lot of your energy. It takes a lot of your time.
Mm-hmm.
Money too is,
For
is a
sure.
financial commitment there as well. So it does change the dynamic in that to maintain a healthy connection, we have to be more intentional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas before children, you can freestyle it a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like there's intentionality, but you don't have a whole human being that you're both responsible for that you have to attend to.
Yeah.
24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is definitely a learning curve as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually about to kind of veer off, but to your
veer
question.
Off? Go ahead, you can veer off. What you trying to do?
No, I was just thinking how like parenthood is as I said before, it exposes you to a lot of different parts of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to remember your dimensionality as a person, right? Like I think parenthood can, if you're not mindful and careful, it can kind of take you away from other parts of yourself, other aspects of your life.
Got it.
And not I don't say that in a negative sense.
Yeah.
I don't view parenthood negatively, but just back to the point about intentionality.
Yes.
It's like not only in a relationship, but I think in every aspect of our lives, we have to make more of an effort to honor those parts of ourselves.
For sure.
From, from relationships from our relationship to our friendships, to our careers, to our self-care, mental health, family connections, right? It's like, and a lot of people do get caught up in that identity of being a parent. And I noticed that more so, just to be honest, like I think from my experience in my relationship, and also just looking at and speaking to other folks who are navigating parenthood as well.
Yes.
That's why, to my point about motherhood earlier, it's like, it's just different because mothers, I think generally from my perspective and experience, mothers really embody that identity of being a mother strongly because their children literally come from them. So that makes preoccupation is deep. It's a lot deeper than I think a father could ever feel. And so sometimes you can get lost in that. Yeah. Not saying that my lady is, but I'm just generally speaking. I think any parent can get lost in that identity, but I think for mothers, that tendency or that pressure or that preoccupation comes a lot easier. Yeah. Because of just that physical and emotional experience. Yeah. But I think the intentionality and the mindfulness of recognizing all aspects of yourself, because if you don't, then you slowly start to lose your humanity, right? That's what makes us human, is we have so many different parts of ourselves. Yes. And so if we don't honor certain parts, then we're not going to be able to show up as our best selves and as our full selves and as our most actualized selves, which is essentially what our children need too, which all the people in our lives need. So it's like, if I'm not investing and engaging in my friendships or the work that I love to do or my creativity or my relationship or my self-care, I'm not going to be the best version of myself for my child or for anyone else or for me. Exactly. Right. And so I think, I know this is kind of off topic from relationships specifically. It's okay. But I think just having that consciousness of, okay, I'm a parent and I'm going to show up as best as I can as a parent. Yeah. But there are these other parts of me that also deserve my attention and my energy. And I have to find a balance with those other parts. For sure. I think that's the healthiest way to navigate. And that's what I haven't mastered it, but that's what I'm working on. Yeah. That's what my lady's working on as well. So, like I said, it's a learning curve. It's a journey within itself.
Yeah. It sounds like y'all are doing great though. And you're a whole therapist, so I feel like, you know, you got a little one up. Because, like, I feel like, I don't know, sometimes I'll be like, some therapists, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, therapists are human. But sometimes I'll be like, therapists low-key have the cheat code, right? For, like,
very true.
Kind of being able to balance. When you see yourself getting off balance, at least I feel like therapists are able to kind of get right back a little, like, get it right a little quicker, right? But therapists are still human, right? So, fall short, don't always get it right, have to work on it, you know? But I think it sounds like y'all are doing great. Like, even the fact that the way you broke that down and, like, vocalized it, I feel like it's spot on, right? I think people forget, like, of course. I hear that all the time, and I've seen it. I've seen it with friends, like, feeling like they lost themselves, you know? Like,
exactly, yup.
And, you know, want to get their life back, right? Or want to start, like, maybe, like, I've had friends who literally, like, wasn't going out maybe for, like, solid, like, 2 years.
Right.
After 2 years, it was like, okay, I want to go outside again. I want to start doing regular stuff.
Yeah.
And then it also, I mean, and then too, I feel like some friends have found, like, maybe after going out and doing the things that maybe they, you know, would have been doing if they didn't have a child, it also doesn't feel natural anymore. Right. So there's that duality there too, where it's like, you also, I think as women, like, as mothers, you also change, like, chemically. Like, there are different changes that happen with the body too, that you just may feel different. Like,
you'll never be the same.
Certain things, right?
You'll never be the same.
So, but I think the fact that, you know, the way you broke that down is like, yeah, like, still, like, what do you like to do, right? Like, you know, like, one night, and I don't know, I guess I want to ask too, and I'm thinking about, shout out to Mac, because Mac, he's a couples therapist, so he always references, like, couples, like, you know, whether it be getting a sitter, right? Or making intentional time for the relationship, right? And that may have to happen. Like, I guess couples would decide at what age they feel comfortable doing that.
Right.
But do you guys do stuff like that? You and your lady, do you guys, like, set out intentional time to do things together? I mean, 6 months is still very, like, fresh and new. Yeah. So, like, to me, I'm like, I don't know. If I had a kid, I don't know. I can't even speak to that. Like, I don't even know if I would want to leave my child at all to do anything until, you know, but balance, right? Talking about balance, like, do you guys set that intentional? Have you guys, you know, like, done that yet? Or do you feel like that's like it's too soon type of thing?
No, it's not too soon. We've definitely done it before. And we actually have conversations about this. I wouldn't say often, but, you know, we've had this conversation a few times. Yeah. It's hard to be consistent. I think that's the challenging part with him being so young. So we've had our date nights and we still have date nights and you know, we try to find ways that we can connect, even if it's not through a date night specifically. Got it. But even if it's like, okay, you know, like one of the conversations we had recently, for example, was investing more in our personal development, like separately. Got it. Being able to do that together or within the same spaces. Yes. So, for example, she's reading Atomic Habits right now. And so I've been pushing myself to read the Bible again, just to, like, tap in and kind of refresh myself. And so those reading times, sometimes we'll say, okay, we'll take, you know, this 30 minutes or an hour or whatever amount of time to do that together. We may not be reading the same book and we may not be reading, you know, to each other collectively, but we're taking that space to invest in ourselves. Or even working out. Like, I like to work out at the gym, but I have no problem doing home workouts. So it's like, cool, if, you know, our son, he's up, he's doing his thing, he's in his little, like, play pen station area, then, okay, I could do my push-ups over here, you could do your planks or whatever you need to do over here. And again, we may not be doing the exact same thing, but it's sharing that time in a way that there's still opportunity for connection. Yeah.
Love it. Fire.
Again, it's not always as consistent as we like it to be because, you know, it's hard to balance with a child. And then, you know, of course, you have other demands, but we try to be as consistent as possible.
Fire. Yeah. Love that. No, thank you for sharing this. I think this is so cool. I feel like I'm thinking about the episodes that I've recorded thus far. I feel like this is, I don't want to say this because I don't want nobody to feel away, but this is one of the most like intriguing, right? Because I have I can't relate at all. But I think I'm able to kind of like, I think this is something that like, I feel like I can learn a lot from. Because I mean, of course, I want to have a child in the future.
Yeah.
So I think even hearing this, like, you know, having these like very like, also coming from like a therapist too, right? Like you being a psychotherapist, coming from your parent, but you're a psychotherapist. So it's a very like, just educational lens, right? Like being able to hear like, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
Or this is how you can try to do it so that it can work, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm like a sponge right now. I'm like taking all of it in because, and I think this is this information too, because a lot of times too, being that like I have friends who have kids, sometimes I feel like I have nothing to offer. Like it's weird. Okay. Like as a therapist, I feel like I can offer them like emotional support. I can offer them advice like on just a mental level. Like this is how you practice self-care. Like do these things to take care of yourself. But when it comes to like parenthood, I'm just like, and then I also don't know if they want to hear from me either. Because I'm like, they're just like, you can't relate. Like you are a single person, so don't tell me any, like that's the energy that I get. And some of them,
dang, that's
that's
deep because now you got me thinking about continue. I'm like, wow, it just took me to a different place. But
listen,
it's real,
and I want to know what you're thinking too. I want to know. Okay. But I think kind of like sitting in this seat and just like, you know, retaining everything that you're saying. Is helpful because I feel like, okay, like I have something to offer to like my friends in a way that maybe I didn't have before because I feel like I was doing the best that I could, like in trying to just be understanding or even, you know, I think I was just showing up as like a friend, right? Like a lot of times with my friends, I try to show up as a friend because that's the dynamic. I'm not your therapist. But I think sometimes, even though sometimes they want me to be, they be like, listen, this nigga acting dumb, give me some advice. And I'm like, no, bro. Like, you got to figure this out on your own because I'm trying to figure it out too. Right. But when it comes to parenting stuff, right, when they really be going through it, because some of my friends are single parents, they be going through it, right? Or they're trying to co-parent as healthy as possible. And sometimes I'm like, I have nothing to offer here. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. But I think hearing it from you, I think is helpful because it's like, oh, okay, like some of the things that I've already offered might be either within the same vein of what you've already shared, or I have new information. So I think I'm just intrigued. I'm like, okay, like what more? Like, so I think this is probably one of the most like very like educational and like very intriguing for me to hear. So I appreciate you for like, just like being open and sharing.
Of course. I'm glad to be here. So it's all good.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
That's interesting.
Yes. Oh wait, and your thought. You had a thought. I don't know if you forgot it, but I wanted to know what you were thinking.
Yeah, I was just thinking about my friends. And so I have like, it's kind of split. I have friends who have children and friends who don't.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that because I do think parenthood, I wouldn't say it changed the dynamic of my friendships, but I definitely tap in more with my friends who have children and my friends who, those who are in relationships or who are married even.
That makes sense.
Because just our experiences are either aligned more or I can, like you said, just learn from them more. So especially my friends who are married, like I'm always asking them questions about, you know, marriage, children, just how to navigate, you know, that, because I didn't grow up with that example. And so I think those friendships took more of an educational direction. Yeah. For me and how I approach them. So I'm investing in those friendships more. Yeah. Not that they're more valuable friendships or friends than my other friends. Yeah. But again, the information that they're able to provide and their experiences are just more relevant to me right now. Whereas my other friends who don't have children or who are not in relationships, etc., I feel like those friendships got a little bit more distant. And not even intentionally, now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's just again, because this is the situation that I am dealing with on a daily basis, like this is something I'm navigating.
Yeah.
And it's still very new to me. And my time is more limited. I'm just seeking more to learn.
Yeah.
And connect with people who are relatable. But to your point about like, what can you offer? I think just showing up as a genuine friend and offering what you feel comfortable with. Because even with my friends who don't have children or, you know, relationships, I don't, like I said, it's not a hierarchy to me. You know, so I don't view them as less valuable friends or less capable of contributing than my friends who are more relatable. It's just different. That's all.
For sure.
Like my son's godfather, he doesn't have children. He's in a relationship, but they don't have children. At least not yet, or not that I know about.
Right.
But when I speak to him, you know, we talk just like we did when we were in college. This is one of my college friends. And, you know, we just connect on that level. And sometimes just that connection, just talking and vibing with someone who brings you back to yourself, or like we talked about earlier, presence, like someone who can just help you to be present where, you know, you don't have to, like when I talk to him, that conversation isn't primarily about fatherhood. Yeah. And that's valuable to me, right? That's probably just as valuable as getting information from friends who are fathers. So I think there's a lot you can contribute to those friendships.
I hope so.
Yeah, there's a lot you can. There's a lot. And for every person, it may look different.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
I wouldn't discredit what you're able to contribute on the basis that your current experience may not be as aligned with theirs, if that makes sense.
Right. Absolutely. That makes sense. For sure. Yeah, I think I get that. And I think I feel that too. I guess. And I love what you shared too about your son's godfather too. Because I feel like I have friendships like that where I'm like, I'm thinking about a friendship in particular where it's like, yeah, I feel like we've had moments like breaks in our friendship, or not breaks, where it's like, or more just like moments where we haven't spoken for a long period of time. Yeah. And that was because we were doing different things at the time. Like I'm thinking I was I was in college or I was in grad school. Right. And my friend had her first child, right? Yeah. And so then navigating that, right? And then there was like another span where like we didn't talk for a long time. Right. And I was like in grad school now. And then my friend was having her second child. Like it was, so then, but then when we reconnected, it was kind of like we didn't miss a beat, right? Like we just kind of picked up where we left off. But then it's very much so like a lot of conversations around like the children and stuff, which I love. Like I have no problem. Like I love kids, right? I have no problem with that. But then, yeah, I guess personally, I felt like limited in like my capabilities of being able to like handle the information with care and like be able to really provide like, you know, sound input.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But I think at the same time too, like, I don't know, like, I guess maybe decisions around like, you know, because I think what we were talking about in the beginning where I'm like, yeah, I'm the go-to person in my friend group. Yeah. My friends know that. I've said that on this podcast a lot of times. I'm the go-to person. Yeah. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I think that, you know, part of the reason why I'm in the field that I am is because I enjoy being able to like be there for my friends and offer input where it's needed and stuff like that. But I guess also I don't know that I'm the go-to person when it comes to anything parenting and children related. So maybe that feels weird to me, where it's like, okay, you're not coming to me about this? Right. Why not? Gotcha. But then it's also sometimes though, like I guess like, because I do have godchildren, but I think the dynamic is very interesting where it's like, I don't know, I guess where I feel like maybe there would be more required from me. It's not like, it's just, you know, like them just figuring it out. Like, which is like good. Like that's what should happen. Right. But I'm like, oh, I don't know. I think it's just the way that I'm processing it, I might just be overthinking it. I may just be overdoing it. But I guess sometimes I'm like, I don't know. It just feels like something that is, I don't know, like nebular. I don't know if that's the right word, but it feels like it's something like distant that I'm like, you can't, I don't know. And that could just be me and the way that my brain works when it comes to that and like my connections and the people in my life.
Right.
And I'm me processing things in a way that's it's like untrue. It could just be my own thoughts.
Right.
But then I do think sometimes I felt that energy, or I've heard people say that like you don't have children, so you wouldn't understand.
Okay.
And I've been told that directly, and I've been like, you know what, you're right, you got it. I'm gonna sit this one out. Like I've definitely been told that before, and I was just like, okay. So let me exit, you know?
Right.
And so I think that could be it too, that I've heard that and I've received that maybe messaging or energy from friends in the past. So now I just be like, okay, this is something off in the distance that I need to, like there's a boundary here that I need to respect at all times.
I'm curious about that. How does that... Yeah, how do you internalize that? Because as a therapist, right, I'm sure you have clients that have situations that you can't relate to.
Right.
But they still come to you.
Yeah.
Right. And you still work with them. And you're still contributing. Yeah. And obviously your relationship to your clients is obviously different from your relationship to your friends. But I'm wondering, because you also talked about like being that person for your friends. Yeah. The go-to person. So it's kind of like an identity marker there. Yeah. So how does that, how do you mitigate that? Because there's that identity marker is not just a friendship thing. It's also a professional that's aligned with who you are as a professional as well. So is there like an identity clash there, or is it distant, like you said, is it distant from how you internalize it or how you even view yourself in the way that you show up?
I like that. I like how
you put that. Like a lot.
Yeah, I'm like, ooh, you know what? I don't know. I guess maybe I've internalized the part about like being the go-to person. Like I've internalized that as like, that is a part of my identity, which isn't necessarily the greatest, the healthiest. Because I think it's like, yes.
Is it a duty to you? Not to interrupt you, but
sometimes.
Just curious.
Okay. Sometimes it feels like a duty. Like, cause sometimes I don't want to. Yeah. But then I guess whether I want to or not.
You're that person.
I'm that person. Cause I think that's also a part of my like character. I do think it's a part of me. Like I don't know that it's something that like, just one day, like I became that. I think that's just a part of like who I am, like innately. Right. That like if someone needs me, I'll be there.
You'll be there. Okay.
And so like, but sometimes it does feel taxing. Like sometimes I'm like,
has to. I
don't have the capacity. Yeah. But then in those moments, I do try my best to be vocal and say like, I can't. You know, and with like. Not with my clients, of course. With my clients, it don't matter what. I'm there, right? Yeah. But with friends, that's where I, like, of course, like setting boundaries and being like, I'm tired. Right. Or just not answering my phone. And they like, why are you not picking up? Because I'm not. Like, that's when it's like, we got to be real clear here. Yeah. Yes, I'm here for you, but what do you need? What do you need? You're stressed out. Right. Well, as a good friend to you, I'm going to tell you, figure it out. I'm going to give you 2 hours to figure it out. Yeah. I'm going to give you a day, right? So that's where it's like, it's changed over time where I'm not just like giving of my time and energy without any boundaries. Because at one point it was like that. But I think as I've gotten older, I've matured more. And I've understood like the importance of boundaries. Yeah. Now it's like, okay, cool. With some limitations, right? Where it's like, if I just don't have it, I can't give it to you. Right? Like I have to make sure like, you know, my like, you know, cup is full and things like that. But yeah, I do feel like if someone maybe was like, I don't know, I needed you and you weren't there on an emotional or mental level, like somebody that I really care about, it would affect me. It would make me feel something if, you know, so that's where And even with that too, I think I'm working through that. Like, it's okay if you feel like I'm working on like just being able to say to myself, like, it's okay if you feel something.
Right.
Because you can't save everybody. Like, you can't save everybody.
You're going to be the hero to some and the villain to others.
Listen. Always.
Somebody hates Batman, right?
Part.
The Joker hated him.
That part.
So it's part of
man.
Part of the experience.
It's a lot.
Does it feel obligatory though? Do you feel like you have to be that person?
I guess not anymore.
Okay.
Not anymore. I did at one point.
Right.
I did at one point feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think I started to just get very honest about like, because I guess I've gone through a lot of things, even just like friendship wise. Like, there's been a lot of like ebbs and flows, ups and downs in certain friendships and things like that. I think I talked about it on a previous podcast too, where there were times where even just like reciprocity, right? That R word, which I use with my clients all the time.
Right.
And sometimes I think even just, which, you know, I'm going to talk about too, is like being a therapist too. Like sometimes it's like I'm learning as I'm like, I might be saying something to my client and I'm like,
you're learning it yourself.
Girl, this is something that you're working on right now. Right?
Same.
So like, yeah, I think
that's always a trippy experience.
It is. I be like,
because you know the answers, but then
what did you just say?
Yeah,
Shut your mouth.
Right.
You know, right? So like, for me, reciprocity. Over the years, that's been something that I felt like I wasn't receiving in my friendships. And I've talked about that a lot, I think, on the podcast. Right. But I think just my mentality now, my perspective has shifted a lot to where like, I think like there are things like love languages, right?
Yeah.
Like people love you also like to the capacity in which they're able to even love themselves sometimes, right?
Sure.
Like if somebody's not even like holding space for themselves emotionally, why would you expect that they would do that for you?
Yeah.
Right. And then also different circumstances happening in life, right? And also just there's so many things, right? As to why someone may not be showing up in the way that you want them to.
Right.
And once I was able to really like, you know, just kind of, became very like introspective and like reflective. And at one point I felt like I was very like upset about the way in which I feel like I wasn't receiving the reciprocity, maybe like emotionally, right? Or like in times where I needed someone.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm on this island by my damn self. Yeah.
That's real. Because I think that's not to interrupt you.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
It just makes me think of that whole strong friend complex, right? Like people assume because you're able to show up for everyone else consistently, that you just have it all together. Yes. And I think as therapists, because you usually do have good insights or are able to provide perspectives on other people's situations, people just assume that you have it all figured out. Yeah. Which is not the case. Because as you said, as you're telling somebody something, you could be going through that same thing and not applying what you're telling them. Because there's a difference between having the consciousness and acting on the consciousness. But I'm gonna let you finish. Like I wanted you to.
No, you was about to go crazy just now. Yeah, that's a fact.
I wanted you to.
That's a fact. You can have the consciousness and be out here wilding.
Yeah.
Okay. And
that's That's a whole other.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
That's a whole other episode. Okay.
That's real.
Yeah, but I think it's so true, and so that's where like, I feel like I'm in a different space now, where it's like, okay. Yes, I want reciprocity, but I think sometimes I'm also able to see like this person is not capable.
Right.
So therefore, whatever it is that you want, maybe you got to get it from somewhere else. Yeah, right. And where it's not, you don't have to force it, where you don't have to be upset about it or whatever. And I think, you know, just not forcing things, like just letting things. And I think I'm in a just different space now where like I feel like I've grown. I've been able to kind of be more accepting of people in just exactly how they are. Yeah. Right. Even if it's not what I would want, ideally. And so, I think I'm just in a better space where friendship is concerned
Mm.
because of it, right? And kind of just letting things, go and flow. So yeah, that I feel like we kind of just went off a little bit. I veered off,
it's
but
valuable though.
Yeah,
It's valuable perspective.
yeah, I appreciate I appreciate you for what you shared too, though. I think
Likewise.
yeah. So I guess we'll switch gears slightly.
Cool.
Well, how are we doing for time? I just want to make sure we're okay.
Yeah, I was just like 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. So all right. So let's get into like you as a therapist, right? Because we started kind of on that.
Yeah.
A bit, but just getting into for you, right? Your journey with like, therapy, becoming a therapist. Did you always know that this was something you wanted to do, or like what made you get into this field?
Oh man, took a lot of different turns. So interestingly enough, when I was a kid, I actually had I wouldn't say the ambition to be a therapist because I didn't really know what that road looked like.
Yeah.
But I can remember as young as maybe 10 or 11 years old, realizing and actually stating to my father that I should be a psychologist. That's what I told him. I said, I should be a psychologist. And the reason why I said that, or what led me to that understanding, wasn't the healthiest, but because my parents were separated, they used to just disclose a lot of their situation and experiences and kind of just like emotionally dump. And so I listened to their stories a lot, whether the stories were about themselves or each other.
Yeah.
And I was also that person with my friends where I was always the kid that knew everybody's secrets. They would just tell me like, unprovoked, just like, hey, this is, but don't tell nobody. And it's like, all right. But I just, they felt comfortable or safe, I guess, to tell me certain things. They knew I wouldn't repeat it. So yeah, when I was like 10 or 11, I was like, I should be a psychologist. But growing up, like I said, it wasn't really an ambition at the time. I wanted to be a basketball player. I wanted to be like Allen Iverson. That was like, when I was growing up, that was like my thing. I was like, I want to be a ball player.
Okay.
Get all these tats, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody wanted to be AI. So that was the thing. So I didn't really have I did well in school, but I didn't really have a plan for myself outside of like athletics.
Got it.
And then just to fast forward, when I was in college, I was an English major, African-American studies.
Nice.
I went into teaching. I taught for 7 years. I taught high school English.
What?
Yeah.
I'm like,
I taught for a minute, yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 30.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I started.
I'm sorry, not to pry, but I'm like,
no, it's all good.
Don't tell me you like 45.
No.
I was going to say 7 years you were a teacher?
Yeah, I taught for, I started, let me see, I finished school when I was like 21. And then, I started teaching.
Right away.
Yeah.
Fire.
Yeah. So
I want to get into how that, for time's sake, we may have to do a part 2 because.
Whatever you will. I'm cool.
Yeah. Like I definitely want to get into like how that journey was for you. But just overall, how was it for you being a teacher? Because I think that's a very important job.
So that's actually what brought me to mental health.
Got it.
So when I was teaching, I had a lot of experiences that affected my mental health in a variety of ways. My first year teaching, it came with its own set of traumas. For one, I had like a couple. I had one really traumatic experience with police, and it also involved my students at the time.
Oh, wow.
And so that actually was like the catalyst, like the major catalyst to push me towards mental health. Because at the time, I didn't really have a blueprint or knowledge of resources and how to navigate that or how to recover from it and how to support my students in navigating that. And so that's what pushed me to do my research about like mental health, learning about, I read the book Standing in the Shadows by John Head, which is about depression in Black men. And that was the first time that book pretty much covers everything, but that was the first time that I was exposed to that conversation as it relates to Black men specifically.
And what, like, do you mind sharing what happened?
Yeah, sure. So at the time, my first year teaching, I was, a teacher, but I was also a basketball coach. And this is in Newark, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, so I coached it to provide more context. I coached the team with two of my friends who also worked at the school.
Got it.
And so we had a late night game, and basically we kind of divided the kids to drop off instead of having them take like the city buses, because it just wasn't safe for them to be taking a bus in Newark at like 9:30.
Yes, for those of you who don't know Newark is like a pretty rough
area
in Jersey.
In Jersey, yeah. So we were like, instead of them having to take the bus, let us just drop them off. And we basically, I pulled up to drop a kid off. I was pulled over. I wasn't even like, he was about to get out the car.
Yeah.
And then these two like unmarked police cars pulled up and, turned the fucking car off, came out with the guns and everything. And I thought we was getting robbed, to be honest with you, because Newark was known for like carjacking.
Right.
So
I've heard that.
Yeah. So I was telling my kids, like, bro, don't say nothing to these dudes. Just don't give them any pushback, whatever. They probably gonna take your phone, whatever the case.
Yeah.
But then I saw the badges and I'm like, because they had hoodies on too. They were in all black. But then I saw like the cop who came to my door, he had like a badge on and everything. So, and they like opened the doors, illegally searched the cars, were kind of like roughing up my students and just talking crazy the whole time.
Yeah.
And mind you, they had like their guns drawn and everything. And so this was also at the time that Black Lives Matter was emerging as a movement. Just a lot of stuff was happening in the news related to police brutality and violence.
Yeah.
And so I just remember going through that experience, and one of the dominant thoughts was like, I hope that none of us become like a hashtag, because I kept seeing all these hashtags of different names in the media.
Yeah.
And so luckily I was able to I explained to the cops that I was like a teacher, basketball coach, who were coming back from a game. Once they realized that, and I showed them like my license, my school ID and everything, they just like dispersed. Like it was just, they was out. So I didn't get any of their information. So I couldn't hold anybody accountable. Right. So back to my point about like resources, it was like this event happened, which that was, I would say, the first time I really felt helpless, where I felt that I was subjected to someone else's authority in a way that I couldn't do anything about. Like if they wanted to do anything to us that night, there was like nothing that I could do to protect my kids or protect myself. And so I was angry, like for a long time. I was very angry, and I didn't have resources to channel it, and I didn't have healthy resources to channel it at the time. And so that pushed me, long story short, which is kind of a long story, but that pushed me towards mental health, just doing my research. And then, just the experience of like being a teacher and the stress that comes with that, and just different life experience. There was a lot of life transitions happening at the time, and just like a lot of experiences that were significant to just my life and my development at the time. And that's actually what pushed me into creativity as well, because photography became my outlet.
Yes. Which we got to get into that too.
Yeah, there's a lot we could cover.
We have to do part 2 because I was doing some research, of course, before the episode, and was able to like see like some of the stuff that you had done, which I thought was amazing.
Thank you.
But also I want to thank you for sharing that, what you just shared, because I think, for one, that's heavy, right? Like I think that that's something that, as you described, is traumatic, right? Like I don't know if that's something that you'll forget, right? Like that's an imprint, right?
That's real. I had, not to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, it's real. I had like PTSD for a minute from that, where it was like every time I saw a cop car, I would get like anxiety, like my heart would start racing, and I would be like checking to see like my speed and everything. And, it was just like I had a lot of, to your point, I just had a lot of innate reactions. Yeah. That I wasn't even, it was just like subconscious. I was like, oh shit. Like I didn't even realize that it affected me in that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Whew. No, thank you for sharing that. Like, for me, I'm like, well, for one, I'm glad that you and your kids were able to be good. Like kind of walk away from that situation.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
You know, but the psychological effects and emotional and mental effects are what is lasting. Physically, you guys were okay.
Yeah.
But that's the lasting part, which I think, you know, like nasty cops, they walk away.
Yeah.
Go home and sleep at night. Well, some of them, I don't know if they sleep at night. Some of them, I'm like, I don't know how, right?
Yeah.
Because for you to do that and then just, okay.
Right.
You
Life
know,
goes on.
Yeah. And were they white? Or were they of color?
Both. Ironically, and often the case, not always, but ironically, the black cop was the most aggressive.
Oh my gosh.
Unfortunately, that's just how it went down. But I also do think that, you know, even if there are not clear consequences, I do think that everyone's actions do catch up to them in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if I call it karma, but I do think that I believe in karma. I'm just saying I think there's a lot of terms that we can use to describe that universal dynamic. But I do think that there's accountability. I think that's just how the world works.
Yeah.
But I think there's also healing in, for me at least, in understanding that, but also the work that I do. Like that's what pushed me into, because for me, it was hard for me to find a black therapist, especially a black therapist that I could relate to. That was like a male therapist, etc. And it was hard to find resources for my students. Yeah. So that's what kind of opened me up to the need for more mental health resources, especially from folks who look like us, just having more representation. And that's what, long story short, pushed me on that path.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Of course. Thank you for creating the space.
No, of course. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, we're going to do a part 2. I feel like we got to do a part 2. I don't want to like breeze through because there's so many, like you're multi, you know, faceted, multidimensional. There's so much more to like learn. Like I think the audience could benefit from like even just learning more about, you know, your journey creatively and, you know, your experience, even as a therapist, right? More like deeply. But
yeah, I'm open to it whenever.
Yeah, we can. I mean, we'll set it up after. Cool. But thank you so much for sharing that thus far. Right, I feel like we just scratching the surface for real. But
but we had some good points of conversation.
Yes, yeah. We started off with parenthood, fatherhood.
Yeah. Nothing was surface level.
Yes, yeah. we got deep. We got in there. And then even just kind of transitioning into, you know, what brought you into the mental health field, I think was great. And yeah, I want us to like continue this conversation and get into like the creative space and also education, right? Which I think is like, you know, and you went to Columbia. Like we really got to get into it. Like you graduated from Columbia University with what, a 4.0 GPA? Yeah,
Columbia, yeah. But not my whole college. Like undergrad wasn't like that, but when I got to grad school, I had to step it up.
Hello, yeah. Like those are things, you know, I want us to kind of like talk more through.
Yeah, we can do that.
And so we'll definitely set up a part 2. Cool. So y'all stay tuned. But thank you so much for sharing all that you did so far.
Thank you.
Yeah, any final like comments, thoughts, questions, and also of course let the people know where they can like follow you, find you, and anything you have like upcoming that you want people to know about.
Okay. I
know that was a lot in one, sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Just thanks again for creating the space and just doing the work that you're doing, right? Thank you. Here and within mental health and just showing up for your people, how you show up for them. I think, you know, anyone who's doing something who's contributing positively and especially in the capacity of healing other people, I think that's really just healing like the ecosystem that we're in, right? So like it's powerful work you're doing as well.
Thank you.
And then, upcoming, I'm working on a project.
Yeah.
It's coming out soon. I don't even want to really talk about it. Like, okay, so I just want to, just look out for that. So you can follow Jean the Human. That's Jean. The Human is spelled Hueman. And what else was the other part? That was it.
Yeah. Anything upcoming? And your information where you want people to follow you, and any like final thoughts, comments, questions.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, I'm just appreciative of the space, and anytime you want to connect again, we can definitely make it happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a pleasure. I
Likewise.
appreciate you.
Likewise.
And yeah, I can't wait for this episode to come out. Yay.
Oh, yeah, it's lit. It's gonna be cool.
So Mental Matters Podcast,
Yep.
guys. We're out.
Cool.